All this is your host, Dr. Mubin Sayed. So I continue to try to figure out what should be my opening statement. So please tell me what should be the opening statement. Number one. Number two, I hope you liked the discussion on Odyssey and Rumble. Um, Rumble, for anyone who is okay with Rumble, there have been some cool beans who have said we don't want to go to Rumble for whatever is their reason, and Odyssey for those who don't want to be on Rumble, and Rumble for those who don't want to be on Odyssey. But these are the two. I'm going to try to see if I can go on locals as well. So that is one. Secondly, the um, commenting system is still a challenge, and I'll have to figure out what is the answer. Now, please remember tomorrow we will also be on Odyssey and Rumble, because tomorrow we're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Josh Wade from US military, who has done an analysis of the vaccine risk. I read his paper, some of it. It's such a thorough paper. It looks like millions of pages to me, lots of pages. And he has gone over a lot of rigorous analysis of the vaccines. And of course, we cannot bring that up on YouTube. Um, so we would, and it's really nothing damaging, but it is an interesting paper with concerns. But YouTube does not allow any such thing where any concern can be discussed. And so we will have to be on Rumble and Odyssey as well. So tomorrow, please remember 6 p.m. As usual, I'll share these links. So that is two. And then thirdly, let's look at some of your comments. Before I want to go over, here is a study that I have here. Why not we go over the study and then we'll continue with our chit chat. So here's the study. This is a study or research paper characterizing long COVID in an international cohort, 7 months of symptoms and their impact. It's an interesting study. And if you look here, it says a significant number of patients with COVID-19 experience prolonged symptoms known as long COVID. Few systematic studies have investigated this population, particularly in outpatient settings. Hence, relatively little is known about symptoms makeup and severity, expected clinical course, impact on daily functioning, and return to baseline health. I feel better in a way that we started talking about long COVID maybe more than a year ago. I think we were one of the first ones to start talking about it. And it's not a matter of pride to say we were first, but important thing is those who were here and listening in, they were aware of this outcome a lot earlier than the mainstream is reaching here. What I wanted to share are their symptom sets. So findings, let's look at this for a second, and then I'm going to go to the symptom sets. Finding is for the majority of respondents, more than 91%, the time to recovery exceeded 35 weeks. 35 weeks. During their illness, participants experienced an average of 55.9 plus minus 25.5 mean standard STD symptoms across an average of 9.1 organ systems. This is what is very interesting. I still remember my discussions with Dr. Paul Marek and with KoolBeens. Remember, I did a talk about long COVID and vaccine side effects as well. And I said, let's we KoolBeens look at it together, then I'll present it on FLCCC as well. That is one of the talks that got me in trouble on my own site as well. So here, in my talk, I had said that there are going to be multiple organ systems, and we have to categorize them, that neurological symptoms or cardiovascular systems or pulmonary systems or liver or GIT. So here they are doing a similar thing. The most frequent symptoms after month 6 were fatigue, post-exertional malaise, and cognitive dysfunction. This is the most important. Fatigue, sense of tiredness, post-exertional malaise. I'm seeing this in a lot of patients. When they become active, let's say they woke up in the morning, they're feeling great, and they went on their work or gym or walk or something, then they become depressed and disappointed. So that post exertional malaise I'm seeing a lot. And then cognitive dysfunction. The most frequent symptoms after month 6. So, symptoms varied in their prevalence over time, and we identified three symptom clusters, each with a characteristic temporal profile. 85.9% of participants experienced relapses, and I'm seeing this a lot, primarily triggered by exercise, physical or mental activity, and stress. And this is a very, very important paper, and this kind of papers. Remember, we are focusing with FLCCC as well and by myself on long COVID. Long COVID and vaccine related uh, outcomes, lingering outcomes, check out my words, are going to be a problem. And so we have to know them, we have to be educated, our healthcare uh, professionals have to be educated, and then figure it out. I think the very first step in long COVID is acceptance that this happens. And then the second step is to figure out why does it happen, how many ways does it happen, and then the third step is to figure out what is the management. Although for a doctor, the management has to start immediately because the patient is in a miserable state. Symptoms varied in their prevalence over time, and we identified three symptom clusters, each with a characteristic temporal profile. So let's see. How much had I have not highlighted it, and it becomes difficult. Unresolved. So primarily triggered by exercise, physical or mental activity, and stress. 86.7% of unrecovered respondents were experiencing fatigue at the time of survey, compared to 44.7% of recovered respondents. So 44.7% of recovered also had experience of fatigue. 1,700 respondents, 45.2%, required a reduced work schedule compared to pre-illness, and an additional 839 were not working at the time of survey due to illness. This is tragic. It is not a small thing for someone to be out of work. Their well-being, their finances, their daily life, their activities, everything is destroyed. Cognitive dysfunction of memory issues were common across all age groups. Except for loss of smell and taste, the prevalence and trajectory of all symptoms were similar between groups with confirmed and suspected COVID-19. So let me show you a couple of graphs. This is a study that we all should read. We all should pay attention to this and understand ourselves and our loved ones around us in this context. And doctors and healthcare professionals, my request to you is to have, for the sake of your patients, this open mindedness to look at these, to understand that this is not just psychiatric issue or psychological issue. These are actually pathophysiological phenomena, and even psychological abnormality is possible because of neurological impact, the inflammation in the brain, the anosmia, the size reduction of various parts of the brain because of disuse, lymphatic channels or lymphatic structures that are kind of inflamed and not working correctly. All of those, as they cause pathology in the brain, one outcome is going to be behavioral disorders, because brain's function is personality, behavior, and motor activities, sensory activities. So when you, just like if hand is injured and we cannot move the hand correctly, if the brain has some inflammation, the brain's functions will be disrupted, and mood is part of the brain functions. So here, this is a chart that says symptoms prevalence estimates, non-neuropsychiatric symptoms. So they have actually two graphs here, page 5 and then page 6. Page 6 is neuro and page 5 is non-neuro. So let's look at some of these here. So all, fatigue is the most common. Then post-exertional malaise, elevated temperature, fever, chills, flushing, skin and then others. Then here, look at this reproductive and endocrine. All extreme thirst. So this is reproductive system and endocrine. This endocrine system, and that's actually very important as well. Extreme thirst, that is because of the, I believe, fluid um abnormalities, fluid volume abnormalities, menstrual periods issues, abnormal irregular periods, heavy periods, menstrual issues, sexual dysfunction, urinary issues, bladder control issues, pain in testicles, sexual dysfunction, and so on. Do you remember there was someone who had said, some celebrity's cousin or someone who said that my testicles became swollen, and that whole situation was made so much fun of that I actually, even if it was false, even if it was false, I could not believe our um, comics to make fun of that situation continuously. But well, that is what we get with the freedom of expression. We can get people mocking others, but we cannot get people talking about medicine easily. So here, pain in testicles, sexual dysfunction, other semen, penis, testicle issues, and so on. So once again, please give it a look. Here, sore throat, blurred vision, vision symptoms, lump in throat. So some of those. Let's see what it was. I do not know what they abbreviated that with. Okay, so let's continue. Look at this cardiovascular. Palpitations, tachycardia, pain, burning in chest, visibly inflamed bulging veins, bradycardia, and fainting. Musculoskeletal, tightness of chest, muscle aches, joint pain, stiff neck, muscle spasm, bone ache or burning. Immunogenic, heightened reaction to old allergies. So I'm seeing this a lot. Previous inflammations become triggered again, they become alive again, they start bothering the patient once more. Heightened reaction to old allergies, new anaphylaxis reactions, shingles. This is such a correct situation. Now, pulmonary, shortness of breath, dry cough like I have, breathing difficulty, cough with mucus, sneezing, rattling of breath, other respiratory and sinuses, coughing up blood. Then GIT, diarrhea. Patients tell me I am diarrheal, uh, have gas, cannot hold my stools, I have to rush to the washrooms, pain, severe pain, and so on. So, diarrhea, loss of appetite, nausea, abdominal pain, gastroesophageal reflux, feeling full quickly when eating, constipation, hyperactive bowel sensation, vomiting. This is just so much on point. I hear these all the time. And then dermatologic, itchy skin, skin rashes, petechiae, COVID toe, peeling skin and allergies. Many people say pins and needle in the toes, and then the burning sensation on the skin. Although that can be neurological. Brittle or discolored nail, dermatographic, graphia, and itchy another. This is non-COVID. Then, oh, sorry, I'm saying non-COVID, non-neurological. Then the neurological. All, so this is emotion and mood, anxiety, irritability, depression, mood lability, tearfulness, apathy, sense of doom, and so on. This is not this is not in a person's head, meaning yes, literally it is in their head, but this is not the way to dismiss, as many are doing, that hey, this is just in your head. There is actually tangible outcome here. And any patient who is here, who is hearing this, and and they feel that they are being dismissed, take this study and bring it to your doctor to show that this is actually seen in others as well. So sensory motor, so sensory nerves and motor system. So dizziness, vertigo, balance issues, that is internal ear. Tingling pins and needles. So that is actually pins and needles is paresthesia. Now that is peripheral nerve damage, and mostly because of either inflammatory cytokines with the nerve or demyelination or the irritation of the nerves itself. It could be irritation at the skin as well. Tremors, I hear this a lot of time. Numbness, loss of sensation, sensitivity to noise, tinnitus, and so on. Sleep, insomnia, waking up several times at night, difficulty falling asleep, awakened by feeling inability to breathe, vivid dreams, nightmares, and more. Cognitive functions, brain fog, poor attention, difficulty thinking, difficulty executive functioning, problem solving, difficulty, slowed thoughts, and so on. If I see here, memory, short term memory loss, long term memory loss, other memory symptoms, short term memory loss, long term memory loss, headaches, headache behind the eyes, headaches diffused, headaches in the temples, headaches in the base of the skull, headache pain after mental exertion, migraines, other headache. Taste and smell, loss of taste, altered sense of taste. Speech, difficulty finding the right words, difficulty communicating verbally, changes to non primary language, etc. Hallucinations, visual hallucinations, auditory, tactile hallucination. Auditory are ears, sounds, voices, and tactile is touch, feeling of touch. So I wanted to make sure that we look at it. Then they have further data here. If you like, we can do a separate talk about it, but I wanted to make sure that you are aware that this study is important to look at. Symptoms time course. Let's look at this as well, and then we'll do a chit chat. So, see, Texas Meg says, my daughter says her brain won't let me. This is a very common problem. Um, I heard from a patient today who said, my body muted me. She was she was articulating something and then she stopped. And then she did not articulate for some time. She didn't speak. And we were over the phone. And then she responded to that. She was surprised at what just happened. And she said, my body muted me. So symptom time course. This is important to see just to understand what is it that we are looking at. So again, I have not read the full study, so I do not know how long did they follow up the patients. Did they follow them up with the full recovery or not yet, or so on? It looks like some recovered and some didn't. So with those limitations in my own understanding, let's look at this. Symptom probability. Chills, flushing, sweat. The question is, are these weeks? Symptoms time course. Plotted time courses represent the estimated probability of experiencing each symptom at each time point, given that recovery has not yet occurred. Times are relative to initial illness onset. Symptoms are grouped according to the affected organ system. Shaded regions show 95% simultaneous confident bands. Okay, so I still want to understand what is the bottom. I'm hoping this is weeks. And then symptom probability. So, for example, let's say we take some symptom. Let's take this uh, pink or purple, pink one here. That is post exertional malaise. So, soon after the infection, nothing, but about 4 weeks later, the probability of this occurring is reaching 0.6, and 8 weeks later, it is between 0.6 and 8, and then it stays that way. Question is, do they see some symptoms going down? There are some that are going down. So pulmonary symptoms start regressing after 24, 28 weeks. GIT starts settling 24, 28 weeks. Neurological symptoms do not. Neuropsychiatric, sensory motor do not. And do not means they may have to follow them up for some more time to see when do they actually settle down. And my other observation is if patients are not followed up with some management, then the problem also occurs. So let me put this link in the chat here so you can take a look as well. I just pasted that link here. Paul Borg says x-axis is weak, see bottom graph on each page for label. Oh, I see. So yeah, time, weeks in illness onset. Very good. Thank you, Paul. So there is a lot more to be seen here. Please give it a look. But you know that this is the next, it's not really next, it is happening from some time now, but this is surfacing. And it is still long COVID. The vaccine related matters are still not openly discussed. Actually, they are still in the stage of being openly, frankly, uh, thoroughly suppressed or shunned. But I think that would change as well. John Snyder says just because you did not get long COVID 19 on the first go does not mean you won't get it in the reinfection. So Randolph says, have you discussed the NAGM article on ivermectin? Not yet. So you probably are talking about Together trial. There are so many flaws and issues with that it was, maybe we can do that discussion on Odyssey or Rumble, discussing that here, especially if I just want to say that, hey, ivermectin doesn't work, then YouTube is fine with that. But if I have to look at that paper and discuss where the weaknesses are, then of course YouTube is already they're already doing things to me even last week. Okay, so how is everyone? How was the weekend? So John said, what study are you previewing? So I just put the link. Let me show you the let me share my screen. I always forget to share. Someone should have my phone number to call me when I do this. This is a study characterizing long COVID in an international cohort, 7 months of symptoms and their impact. It is published in The Lancet. So if I go here, okay, so that link doesn't seem to be working, but anyways, this is the study. So Augie says, will you discuss rationale for FLCCC update? Definitely I can. Guy Telfer says, brain shrinkage, inflammation, and shedding contiguous simultaneously. So I think that in the beginning there is inflammation. Inflammation can cause compression as well, depends upon how much. Now, shedding, I do not know what are we talking about. Is that the shedding of the virus? If you're talking about acute disease, then shrinkage will not occur because shrinkage or disuse uh, reduction will take some time. So it's not that today, if I cannot smell, then tomorrow my brain's olfactory systems start regressing. But if, excuse me, if I do not have my sense of smell functioning for a longer period of time, then the brain shrinkage starts occurring. And that is the study that we looked at. And it is study from an Oxford University, from the Oxford University, not someone else. So together, inflammation and shedding can be, but shrinkage cannot be. Shrinkage is a little longer period of effect, or an effect that would occur in longer period. Augie says, isn't brain shrinkage at night normal part of physiology? That's different. We're talking about global brain size reduction. I did that study, which is a continuous reduction, not pulsation or increase or reduction in fluid levels. Adam has a very interesting question. Is there a way to deduce whether symptoms are being caused by long COVID or by vaccination? Unfortunately, there is no real way to separate them. So KBU's Net says, how does this article support Dr. Patterson's work? So his work shows that monocytes are stuck with S1, which then causes monocytes to stay active and inflammation to continue to occur. That inflammation at the boundaries of the body, especially at the vascular boundaries, can cause all kinds of issues, including issues in the brain and the rest of the body. However, I do not think that that is the only possibility. There are more pathologies to look at, and there are more mechanisms for pathologies to look at. Alexander says, sadly, this study shows nothing new in all that we well know for a while. Correct, but the thing is this: mainstream medical media, forget about the mainstream media, but mainstream medicine has not yet reached this point to say there can be neurological symptoms, there can be long COVID symptoms, although now we are reaching there. So it is important to have such studies so that you can put them in front of a doctor and say, this is not something I'm making up. Or you can bring this to your employment and say, look, there are studies, this is happening. So it is important for these things to be recorded. And plus, it is also interesting that they pulled all that data together and did analysis on that. So Laurie says, are any of these long-term COVID showing up in children? Are you talking about the study? Let's see. Actually, it's interesting for the age. If you're talking about this, so the survey information sheet accessible here stated, you are being invited to participate in this research study because you've had a COVID-19 or suspected COVID-19 infection, still suffering or suffered symptoms for longer than 1 week, and you are 18 years of age or older. So this is already kind of in adults. If that was your question, my apologies if I didn't catch the question. Yeah, children are getting long COVID. That is in general, yes. Paul, thank you very much. Yes, please hit like. Guy Telfer says, sorry, I meant brain swelling, inflammation, and replication. Correct. So let me explain this part. So you said, was this simultaneous? Then yes, I would actually say it this way, that let's say here's the virus, and by replication, I'm assuming you're talking about viral replication. So let's say the virus is replicating. This replication of the virus and the immune systems fight with it, right? So in the beginning, immune system is not winning yet, and the virus is winning. And the result is that immune system is going mad, and it is producing a lot of pro-inflammatory molecules, right? It wants the armies to be there and all warfare to be activated. This situation actually would then cause the inflammation even in the brain if those molecules, remember that we did this study where they said, the study with the anosmia and the brain size shrinkage from Oxford, where they said one possibility is that the inflammatory markers that are present in the body would travel in the brain and then cause inflammation there. So this inflammatory set of markers can distribute in the whole body, and wherever there is any possibility of existing inflammation for other reasons, allergies, injuries, they would enhance that, plus they would add new inflammation in the body. And in some cases, it is triggering MCAS and mast cell activation syndrome as well. And this is so severe in case of COVID that people die with the cytokine storm. So yes, inflammatory markers are now produced. So your question, is the inflammation happening? Yes. Is the replication happening? Of course. If the replication was not happening and the virus was under control, then ideally not a lot of inflammation would occur. Although this virus has this really strange behavior that after it is done, it still leaves the immune system in this broken state where immune system just stays in this long COVID outcome. And then from the inflammation, of course, swelling of the brain can occur as well. Not necessarily in everyone, but can. Now, to go to the shrinkage. Shrinkage, immediate shrinkage is different. For example, God forbid somebody has an trauma and that caused reduction in blood levels and so fluids are reduced, or God forbid trauma that caused the brain to become actually physically hurt. Otherwise, the shrinkage that we did that study review, this shrinkage is really after some weeks when the parts of the brain are not functioning optimally, and so they do not have enough activity going on that they would keep their nutrients and their levels of, so let's say this is a neuron, of course all of our cells keep nutrients in them stored. This is just like us, we have our refrigerators with food or our stores with food and so on, or the food type materials. Cells do that too. And so if a cell sees that I'm not working very often, it would shed these nutrients or it would not grab more nutrients. And this is called disuse atrophy, one type. So that would cause swelling, shrinkage. This would take time. So I hope that answers that question. Guy, good question. Embal says, I want to see CRP and D dimer levels of these people, for example, rather than subjective effect. So did they not have the markers? No. So this is really symptomatic observation, not the actual pathology. So they didn't ask the people to give their blood and then test them. So Janet says, on Odyssey or Rumble, is there special access to DrBeen videos? So on Odyssey and Rumble, so if I go to, for example, Odyssey, You can just have access directly. You can find Dr. Mubin Sayed, and here are the videos. Not a lot of viewership here, but still, the videos are all here. And Rumble. I used to search for Dr. Bean and turned out somebody else registered that name and they have it. This is somebody else, it's not me. Um, but there is Dr. Mubin Sayed. That is mine. Maybe Dr. Bean is mine as well, but I do not know. This is Dr. Mubin Sayed. So here, for example, we just did this Honduras video and that is here. So these are, I believe I synchronized from YouTube, I believe from January onward on Rumble, but on Odyssey from the beginning onwards. The only videos on Odyssey that may not be there are the ones that YouTube had removed. But majority is here. At least the new videos that YouTube is removing nowadays are there. So Janet, I hope that answers that question. Let me actually share the links to Odyssey and Rumble. This is Rumble and this is Odyssey. So Wild Horses says Dr. Amy Prohl is doing research on long COVID and continuing virus microbiome, etc. interview on Jiz Midinger. Keeney says good night, Keeney. Margaret says thank you to Texas Meg and DDS. Absolutely. And Margaret, you're doing very well as well. Everybody is participating very nicely. Laurie says, my 13-year-old grandson is complaining of being very, very tired, and his parents are calling lazy. He has very bad Delta COVID. Parents won't listen to what loyalty COVID is. Yeah, so please help them see this. Although this is 18 plus, but there are many studies for children as well. Doug says, good night, Doug. And we will take another 5 minutes and we'll say bye as well. So please remember for tomorrow as well, we'll be on Rumble and Odyssey with Lieutenant Colonel Josh Waite. So Margaret is saying can't manage to figure out how to sign in. They're actually Rumble and Odyssey. Yeah, they have a rather slightly difficult process to log in to be able to sign in or sign up. And my apologies, I just gave the links today. Slowly, people would start signing up. I would help you as well, those who need help with this. So Cynthia says, I couldn't find out how to live chat on Rumble. So, okay, so we'll try to figure that one out. John says, Dr. Bean, I was late for Dr. Valeria's talk today, so only saw the last 40 minutes. I watched it on Rumble and it was great. Awesome. That is good to know. I thought in the beginning that there is a lot of echo, but that was actually not echo. That was, I had started Rumble and Odyssey videos, live videos, to read the comments. And those live videos were running with the speakers on. So that voice was actually coming from those live videos. Fortunately, I was able to quickly see that and mute those speakers. So Chris says, would you do Discord notification tomorrow? I didn't find one for tonight. I did do the notification today. Normally near 5:30, if I quickly go to Discord. So, so don't mind my Discord is less attended. But if you see here, near 5:36, today's discussion will be on Rumble and Odyssey, and I place these links there. And I'll do the same tomorrow, Chris. DDS says we need a YouTube video explaining how to use Rumble and Odyssey. I think so. I think we can do that. Um, Maybe tomorrow. Now it is too early for me to do that video as well. So tomorrow we're gonna work with uh, Josh as we can, and then after that I would do a video on these. So Nipa, there is no notification because only YouTube is connected to Discord for notifications, and I don't know. I asked, what is his name? Holland. Bonk Bonk. I asked him if we can connect others, and I think there was no way, or we did not know a way yet. Because of that, because we were not on YouTube, there was no notifications like regular ones. However, I posted the links, but I think that was in the general chat and got scrolled. Christy says, thank you, growing pains. Absolutely. Susan says, I had difficulty making comments on Odyssey. Yeah, we'll have to figure those things out slowly. I think once we become proficient, we'll be okay. So Frisco says, what's the latest predictions, guesses for the US over the next 2 to 6 weeks, given the latest in UK, Europe, and so this is a very interesting question. I was actually looking for data around this as well. My thinking was that, so if we go to that, we may have more cases with the BA2, but we would have decoupling of the hospitalizations and deaths. But if you see here, we still do not see an uptick in cumulative numbers. In some states may be showing an uptick, some are on the downturn. So cumulative, we are still kind of on a R naught, which is stable. So we'll have to see that does it really create a spike. My thinking is it will not, but that is just my thinking. And I'll tell you what my reasoning is. So here, death rate is also kind of flat at this time. My reasoning for thinking that it would not is that we have a lot of um, vaccination and infection. And so that doesn't mean that the reinfection cannot occur or breakthrough cannot occur, but hopefully these are not so severe. And so the people are not going there. That's one. Secondly, I think we are not counting the cases as vigorously and as um, accurately as before. So we're not, look, my own COVID, doctors just simply said, yeah, this is COVID. You have done your own test, no need to do the testing. DrBeen says UK has good data in National Office of Statistics. We'll look at that. So with this, we are at about 8 o'clock as well. So John Snyder says, my prediction is more US states will stop posting daily data and call it endemic like the 14 did already. It will be hard to get a PCR unless you go to a federal test. Yes, so we are at the end of that. Thank you. Okay. So with this, I'm looking at some comments. Thank you very much. Yes. So sweet dreams to everyone. Please like, subscribe, and share. There is a link in the description with the really affordable one-time lifetime membership for DrBeen premium content, about 1,000 videos for a very low price. So take advantage of that. And then there are other links as well if you would like to support this work. There are links for buy me a coffee or PayPal or becoming a patron. In theory, I have been thinking about it. in theory, what we should do is we should just leave YouTube alone and go to Odyssey and Rumble. But there is a major financial hit to be taken, and I'm just trying to shore up as much of the other financial streams before I decide that, or before YouTube decides to take the channel down. So, with this, thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I would see you tomorrow. Bye bye.